Welcome to Lit Happens, Saskatchewan's showcase of the literary talent of the province. We are out on location today at Mint Clothing on Broadway Avenue in Saskatoon on a set designed by Fresh Living, and I just want to say it's great to be here. We have been welcomed with open arms, and it's been a great atmosphere to tape. So, good segue into my next guest, Joan Hammersmith. Joan, welcome to Lit Happens.
Thank you.
I am really happy you're here because I'm reading your book right now. It's on my nightstand at home.
Oh.
And it's right, I've been reading you and Indian Ernie at the same time, so, which has been really interesting for me, but just fascinating story. We're going to talk about your book, but first I'd like a little bit of a backstory. Tell us about yourself, Joan.
Oh my goodness, well I made a career out of changing careers.
Yeah.
But I've been an educator, a consultant, an addictions counselor, a college instructor, now a writer.
Yeah, you wear many hats, like a lot of writers end up doing in life. So I guess what I really want to hear is the backstory behind this book, because it's a very personal story, and I just keep wondering as I'm reading it, was it difficult for you to throw out such a personal story for the world to devour?
Yes, it was very difficult.
Yeah.
First of all, my husband was just 50 when he died, just turned 50.
Yeah.
And he'd had a very troubled early life and a very successful later life.
Yeah.
Addictions had plagued him and he'd found recovery. And he eventually died at 50 of hepatitis C and complications.
Wow.
And he had spent part of his life as an outlaw biker and the tattoos and so forth.
Yeah.
At any rate, when he died, John's will was read, and it asked me to finish his memoir. And that was just, I thought it was an impossible thing to do. And I was quite angry. I thought, how rude of you to ask me to do what you didn't do in your lifetime.
Yeah.
However, our lives were very entwined, and I finally was able to, actually I had spent some years recovering from the grief and anger, and found myself in a place where I had decided I would leave it all and become a nun.
Oh, that's an interesting twist.
I really wanted that peace and quiet and solitude, meditation, and however, I have children and family, and I knew that eventually that wouldn't work. And around the same time as I gave up my dream, I reconnected with a man I had known 30 years ago, and today we've been married 10 years.
What a story.
Yes, and so he encouraged me to look back. And if you've read the first part of the book, you'll know that my writing was triggered by a very metaphysical experience in Banff with a Cree elder who told me that my husband wanted to talk to me. I thought she meant my husband, and she meant, no, not that husband. And so she began to tell me what I was to do, and I could not stop. I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. So I did finish the book with great trepidation. Who would want to read anything I wrote? And yet it kept coming out of me in John's voice. And so most of the book is written in his voice. And often there were times, for instance, when he was describing Windsor, Ontario, down some street with a greasy spoon. I've never been there, and he described it through me.
Wow.
I find the newspaper said I was channeling him. He was very complex. Towards the end of his life, his addiction resurfaced when he was terrified of dying and afraid of living. And he relapsed, and it was very desperate times. However, he was a magic person. He was a wonderfully, highly spiritual man, and I believe he helped me write this book, and that's how I got there.
I believe so too. Like a lot of authors that have been on the show have said that often the book is sort of used them as a tool to manifest. It's almost like something is controlling your hands as you write.
Literally.
Yes.
Literally, there were times I would look at 30 pages of single text and not have a clue what it was about.
Yes. Yes.
It's been exciting, though.
Yes, very exciting. So the raw, bold truth has been out for several months.
Yes.
Yes. So I guess my question would be, what's the reaction been?
Gosh, it's been amazing. My first launch was in Calgary.
Yeah.
And I sold out. Then my next launch was in Prince Albert, and I actually did 3 appearances that day and sold out again. And I've been very well received. Not just people who knew him and not just people who have addictions either, but as I said, he was a magic man, and people like to read about someone like that.
Yeah.
And it's also my story.
Yeah. So do you feel exposed? Do you feel a little vulnerable now that your story is out to the world?
I did. When I first allowed someone to read it, nobody read it in its totality until it was like this. I was terrified. However, I feel so liberated now. So much so that, in fact, the follow-up to this is really my story. And I had been afraid to tell that story, and now it's well on its way. So
Really?
yeah.
So that was my next question.
Sorry.
That's okay. When can we look forward to that manifesting?
I am not sure, because right now I had originally started, I'd originally been doing some research for a friend about an older couple who were murdered out in Edmonton. I like to do investigative stuff.
Yeah.
And I found incredible information, but no sound evidence as to who did it. The police haven't found anything. I thought, well, the best way to, but I had a lot of clues. So I thought, I'll fictionalize this, and then I'll use it as a lead-in to my heroine, who is actually going to be this private eye, a la Gail Bowen. And I was about 2 paragraphs in, and it stopped.
Really?
And I knew, and I knew, and I knew this was not what I'm supposed to write. So I started writing about my career as a case management officer in the federal penitentiary.
Wow. That's going to be another interesting, I think, chapter to your own life.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And it's releasing a lot of the secrets that I've kept.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that there's a lot of viewers out there right now very excited about that.
Oh, thank you.
I think there's a lot of buzz right now.
Good.
Yeah. So I know we're running out of time, so I'd like to know where in Saskatchewan can viewers find the Raw, Bold Truth?
Well, I'm with McNally Robinson has some copies.
Yeah.
The other one.
Probably online.
Well, certainly online through I have a web page on, joanhammersmith.com, and I also have a page on Facebook, The Raw Bold Truth.
Yeah.
And it tells you there where you can access it, Amazon.com, Google, all the book.
Yeah.
I think there are 1,500 outlets that.
Nice. Nice.
Well, the publisher I used has access to
the
those,
Chapters, Coles and Indigo chain. Yes.
Yeah.
Always a great resource.
Coles.
Too. Yes. Yeah. Well,
and Wes Funk, who's been immensely helpful in helping me find a way to market this.
Yeah, and I don't think we're done yet.
No,
actually.
we're not. No, we're not.
Well, I know we're out of time, but I just want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you for writing your story, because I think it's a very exciting that it's out there for the world. So I want to thank you for that, but I want to thank you for coming up here today to Mint Clothing and just sharing with us. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure. That's all the time we have today for Lit Happens. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can see previous segments on the Shaw TV website or on my website, westfunk.ca, and you can connect with us online on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So I will see you next time on Lit Happens.